Dear students, Namaste. This is Dr. Pallavi Gupta here. As you know, I am teaching you election law. Today, I will deliver my lecture on the contents of Model Code of Conduct. In the last lecture, I had discussed about the object of Model Code of Conduct, its evaluation and extent, date for the execution, duration for the application of this model code of conduct. Today I will discuss the contents of the model code of conduct. There are various content. Broadly, it is divided into eight parts of the eight parts. So this is the first part is the general conduct, meetings, procession, polling day, polling booth, observers, appointment of the observers, party in power, and manifestos. So everyone knows that the model code of conduct is a guidelines or the guidance of the political parties and candidate. Means all the political parties and the candidate has to follow these guidelines during the election from the date of the announcement by the date from the date of the announcement of election by the election commission. It is mandatory to follow, although it has no legal sanctity, but there is a more moral sanctity, there is a ethical sanctity behind it. So regarding the first part of the model code of conduct, that is talking about the general conduct. So here there are seven points of this general conduct. The first point is saying that no party or the candidate shall include in any activity which may aggravate existing differences or create mutual hatred or cause tension between the different caste and communities, religious or linguistic. So means no one take up any activity which the result of which is to make the differences between the communities, between the caste, or to create mutual hatred between the communities and caste, or between the religions. And the second point is that confined criticism of the other political parties says that the criticism of the other political parties, when made, shall be confined to their policies and program, past record and work. Parties and candidates shall refrain from criticism of all aspects of private life not connected with the public activities of the leader or workers of other parties. Criticism of other parties or their workers based on unverified allegation or distortion shall be avoided. Means it is saying that you may criticize the other party, but there is a extent, there is a limit, there is a level of the criticism. Point 3 is saying that no appeal to secure vote on the basis of caste. Although it was already told that there shall be no appeal to caste or communal feeling for securing votes. Mosques, churches, temples, or other place of worship shall not be used as a forum for election propaganda. Strictly prohibited. Subclause 4 means no one should involve any kind of corrupt practices and electoral offense. So, point 4 is saying all parties and candidates shall avoid scrupulously, scrupulously all activities which are corrupt practices and offenses under the election law, such as bribing of the voters, intimidation of voters, impersonation of voters, canvassing within 100 meter of polling station, holding public meeting during the period of 48 hours, ending with the hour fixed for the close of the poll, and the transport and conveyance of the voters to and from polling station. Although it is already covered under the corrupt practices or electoral offences, and it mentioned in the Model Code of Conduct also under the General Conduct. And point five is saying that one must respect to individual rights. So the right of every individual for peaceful and undisturbed home life shall be respected. However, much the political parties or the candidate may resent his political opinions or activities. Organizing demonstrations or picketing before the houses of individual by way of protesting against their opinion or activity shall not be resorted to under any circumstances. And point 6 is saying no one should use the land of others for political campaigning without consent. So, point 6 is saying no political party or candidate shall permit its or his followers to make use of any individual's land, building, compound wall, etc., without his permission for erecting flag staff, suspending banners, pasting notices, writing slogan, etc. Point 7 saying they do not disturb in the meetings. So, political parties and candidates shall ensure that their supporters do not create obstruction in or break up meeting and procession against by the other parties. Worker of one political party shall not create disturbance at public meeting organized by another political party by putting questions orally or in writing or by disturbing leaflets or their own parties. Procession shall not be taken out by one party along places at which meetings are held by another party. Poster issued by one party shall not be removed by workers of another party. So these are the general conduct which are supposed to be taken by every political party candidate and their supporter or workers. Part 2 is talking about the meetings, how it should be carried on and what the rules they have to follow. So there are 4 points in this regard that the first point is saying that the party or the candidate shall inform the local police authorities of the venue and time any proposed meeting. Well in time means the party has to inform to the local police about the time, venue in time so as to enable the police to make necessary arrangement for controlling traffic, maintaining peace and order. Point 2 is saying that a party or candidate shall ascertain in advance if there is any restrictive or prohibitory order in force in the place proposed for the meeting. If such order exists, they shall be followed strictly. If any order is there to follow, restrictive order is there, the party or the candidate must follow it. If any exemption is required from such orders, it shall be applied for and obtained well in time. Point 3 is saying if permission or license is to be obtained for the use of loudspeaker or any other facility in connection with any proposed meeting, the party or the candidate shall apply to the authority concerned well in advance and obtain such permission or license. Point 4 is saying that organizers of a meeting shall invariably seek the assistance of the police on duty for dealing with person disturbing a meeting or otherwise attempting to create disorder. Organizers themselves shall not take action against such person. So, if anytime assistance of the police is required, it should be requested well in time. Now, part 3 is related to the procession. What party or candidate should do if they are taking procession. A party or candidate organizing a procession shall decide beforehand the time and place of the starting of the procession, the route to be followed, and the time and place at which the procession will terminate. There shall ordinarily be on deviation from the program. And the point 2, the organizer shall give advance intimidation to the local police authorities of the program so as to enable the latter to make necessary arrangement. Point number 3, the organizers shall ascertain if any restrictive orders are in force in the localities through which the procession has to pass and shall comply with the restrictions under exempted specifically by the competent authority. Any traffic regulation or restriction shall also be carefully adhered to. Point number 4 is saying that the organizers shall take steps in advance to arrange for passes of the procession so that there is no block or hindrance to traffic. If the procession is very long, it shall be organized in segment of the suitable length so that it convenient intervals, especially at points where the procession has to pass road junctions. The passes of the held up traffic could be allowed by stages, thus avoiding heavy traffic congestion. Point number 5. Procession shall be so regulated as to keep as much to the right of the procession shall be so regulated as to keep as such to the rights of the road as possible, and directions and advice of the police on duty shall be strictly complied with. Point number 6 is saying that if two or more political parties or the candidate proposes to take possession over the same route or the part thereof at about the same time, the organizers shall establish contact well in advance and decide upon the measures to be taken to see that the procession do not clash or cause hindrance to the traffic. The assistance of the local police shall be availed for arriving at a satisfactory arrangement. For this purpose, the parties shall contact the police at the earliest opportunity. And then point number 7, that the political parties or the candidates shall exercise control to the maximum extent possible in the matter of the processionist carrying articles which may be put to misuse by the undesirable element, especially in moment to the excitement. Meaning thereby, if anyone is carrying such article which may be misused to make it unavoidable situation, the party or the candidate should control over it. Point number 8, the carrying of effigies purporting to represent member of other political parties or their leaders, warning such effigies in public and such other forms demonstrations shall not be countenanced by any political parties or the candidate. So these are the rules and regulations to follow by the political parties and the candidate when they are organizing procession in the election. Now part 4 is talking about polling day. There are in fact 7 points which do need to be discussed. That the all political parties and the candidates shall, number 1, cooperate with the officers of the election duty to ensure peaceful and orderly polling and complete freedom to the voters to exercise their franchises without being subjected to any announce or obstruction. Number 2, political parties and candidates shall supply to their authorized workers suitable badges or identity card. Political parties and candidates shall agree that the identity slip supplied by them to voters shall be on the plain white paper and shall not contain any symbol, name of the candidate, or name of the parties. All political parties and the candidates shall refrain from serving or distributing liquor on polling day and during the 48 hours, 48 hours preceding it. Number 5, the political parties and the candidate shall not allow unnecessary crowd to be collected near the camps set up by the political parties or the candidate near the polling booth so as to avoid confrontation and tension among workers and among the workers of the parties and the candidate. Point number 6, all the political parties and the candidates shall ensure that the candidates camp shall be simple. They shall not display any poster, flag, symbols, or any other propaganda material. No tables shall be served or crowd allowed at the camp. And point number 7, all the political parties and candidates shall cooperate with the authorities in complying with the restrictions to be imposed on the playing of the vehicle on the polling day and obtain permits for them which should be displayed prominently on those vehicles. So these are the we can say the rules or regulation or the code of conduct to follow by the political parties and candidate on the polling day. Now on the polling booth there are certain rules to be followed, that accepting the voters, no one without a ballot pass from the election commission shall enter the polling booth. As we all know, in the polling booth are created to cast the vote by the voters. So no one else is allowed except the voters. Of course, electionary machineries will be there. Point number 6, observers. Yes, the election commission is having a power to appoint the observers. The object to appoint observer is that if the candidate or their agent have any specific complaint or problem regarding the conduct of election, they may bring the same to the notice of the observer. Now part number 7, that is very important, and that is the party in power, and it has been incorporated in this code of conduct because with the intention that the party which is in the power must not or should not misuse their official position. So there are certain points to be taken under this, that is broadly 6 points, or no, it's not 6, it's 7 points. So number 1, the party in power, whether at the center or in the state or concern, shall ensure that no cause is given for any complaint that it has used its official position for the purpose of its election campaign, and in particular the minister shall not combine their official visit with the election year work, and shall not also make use of official machinery or the personals during the election year work. Means official visit will not be combined with election year. And it is also saying that government transport, including official aircraft, vehicle, machinery, and personnel, shall not be used for furtherance of the interests of the political parties in power. Point number 2 is saying these public places such as maidans, etc., for holding election meetings and use of helipads for air flights in connection with the election shall not be monopolized by itself. Other parties and candidates shall be allowed the use of such places and facilities on the same terms and condition on which they are used by the political party in the power. Point number 3. The rest houses, dark bungalow or other government accommodations shall not be monopolized by the party in power or its candidate, and such accommodation shall be allowed to be used by the other political parties and candidate in the fair manner, but no party of the candidate shall use or be allowed to use such accommodation as a campaign office or for holding any public meeting for the purpose of election propaganda. Point number 4 is saying issue of advertisement at the cost of the public exchequer in the newspaper and other media, and the misuse of the official mass media during the election period for the partisan coverage of the political news and publicity regarding the achievement with a view to furthering the prospect of the party in power shall be avoided. Point number 5. That ministers and other authorities shall not sanction any grant payment out of the discretionary fund from the time election are announced by the commission. Very categorically it is mentioned. And that it is also says that point number 6, that from the time the elections are announced by the election commission, ministers and other authorities shall not announce any financial grant in any form or promises thereof, or by any, they will not lay down any foundation stone of projects or the scheme of any kind. They shall not make any promise of the construction of the roads, provision of drinking water facility, etc. And they shall not announce or make any ad hoc appointment in the government, public undertaking, etc., which may have the effect of influencing the voters in power of the party in power. Although it is to be noted that the election commission shall announce the date of any election, which shall be a date ordinarily not more than 3 weeks prior to the date on which the notification is likely to be issued in respect of such election. And point number 7 is saying that ministers of the central or state government shall not enter any polling station or place of counting except in their capacity as a candidate or voter or the authorized agent. So there are various or the exhaustive rules for this point. Parts 7 is saying, which is specifically mentioned to not to misuse the power. Now part 8, which was incorporated in 2014 after the case of the S. Subramaniam Balaji versus Government of Tamil Nadu in 2013. And it was talking about the manifesto. So it is saying that the election manifesto shall not contain anything repugnant to the ideals and principles enshrined in the Constitution, and further that it shall be consistent with the Constitution and spirit of the other provision of the Model Code of Conduct. Point number 2 is saying that the directive principles of the state policy enshrined in the Constitution enjoin upon the state to frame various welfare measures for the citizens, and therefore there can be no objection to the promise of such welfare in citizen manifesto. However, the political parties should avoid making those promises which are likely to vitiate the purity of the election process, to exert undue influence on the voters in exercising their franchises. Point number 3 is saying that in the interest of the transparency, level playing field, and the credibility of the promises, it is expected that manifesto also reflect the rationale for the promise and broadly indicate the ways and mean to meet the financial requirement for it. Trust of the voters should be shot only on those promises which are possible to be fulfilled. It is noteworthy to note that the part 1 to 7 of the model code of conduct come into force from the date of the announcement of the election scheduled by the election commission, but part 8 is operational from the date of the issue of the manifesto by the political parties, even if such date is anterior to the date of the announcement of the election scheduled by the election commission. So these are the part 7 which I have discussed of the model code of conduct to be followed by the political parties and candidate, because it serves as a guidance. Nowadays it is also since that there is a fake news or the social media is used by the candidate and the political parties uh, to influence the voters, to create the hatred, hate feeling, hate speech are there. So it is also covered anyhow by the rules of the by the notification of election commission, because they have to disclose the social media account when the parties are filing the nomination paper. The next topic for delivering my lecture will be the defacement of the property.